Well, happy third day of spring, everyone. I am in a good mood this morning because of the big fluffy snowflakes that are making the streets of Regina look in Treaty 4 territory. Look magical. What a beautiful day. Now, I recognize a lot of the names of people who have signed up for today's workshop. It's so gratifying to know that we're providing a valuable service to the community through the professional development sessions that we offer in collaboration with the South Saskatchewan Community Foundation and the Office of the President at the University of Regina. It's also nice to see that each time we hold one of these workshops, there are a few new people joining and a good number from other provinces. Now, because everywhere else in Canada changed time zones recently, I think we confused a few people who thought the session was beginning at 11 a.m. or other times. So note to self, being me, maybe include a note in the emails that come from Eventbrite next time that Saskatchewan doesn't change our time. So sorry about that for anybody who got confused on that. Anyhow, it always makes me feel so good to get emails after our sessions or after I've sent a message out advertising an upcoming event, requesting to be put on our rudimentary, really ugly looking email list. Let me tell you, that's an area where I could up my game, the whole graphic design piece. But I think one of the best compliments I got was from someone who I think is here today with us, Jane Knox, volunteer extraordinaire for so many nonprofits in the city, who I ran into in Superstore one day, and she told my daughter, when your mom sends me an email, I always look at it right away because I know there's going to be an invitation to something I'll want to attend. And such as the event that you're here today to learn some information from. So for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Lynn Gidluck, and I have the distinct privilege of leading the Community Engagement and Research Center at the University of Regina. Now, of course, we're meeting here virtually, but my physical space is located in the classroom building on the University of Regina campus. The traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota First Nation, and the homeland of the Métis. Now, although most of you who are attending today's workshop know the Community Engagement and Research Center from our Toolkit workshops, most of our time is spent creating partnerships between university researchers and community-based organizations to do research together. So mark this date on your calendar if you're interested and want to join us. We have an upcoming event that we're hosting on April 6th from 2:30 to 4:30 in collaboration with Luther College's nonprofit and voluntary sector studies network and the Faculty of Grad Studies. We introduced 8 graduate students to representatives from nonprofit organizations who very enthusiastically provided advice on directions these students could take to make their research more relevant to community. I'm really excited about this because some of you might know that we had our community grant program cut this year because of the university's dire financial situation. I know this program has funded some really important research that, a lot of you who are on the line today have been able to take advantage of that program and, and wouldn't have been able to do some of this research without these grants. So while our new push to get graduate students doing more community-based work can't replace this grant program, it is at least a step in the right direction. So if you have an idea that would make a great thesis or dissertation or research project, please reach out to me. Anyways, back to the reason we're all here today. Today is the 6th of 8 workshops that we'll be hosting between now and June. We've got a couple more that I haven't scheduled yet, but I will send you a notification. One on engaging with Indigenous communities, another one that we're going to be talking about engaging with 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. So social media for nonprofits. Now, when I first thought about this topic, I immediately thought of Victoria Flores because she is another one of those volunteer extraordinaires, but like communication guru. She is the communications and marketing manager at the Regina Open Door Society. I just have such tremendous admiration for how creative and knowledgeable she is about doing the social media and every aspect of communications and public relations on a shoestring. So that's essentially, most of you that are joining us today don't have big budgets for this kind of work. So that's where we had a conversation, and she immediately said that she would like to bring her friends from Strategy Lab, who she has had the pleasure of working together with. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her relationship with them. But as you will see, we have Victoria is joined by a number of colleagues from Strategy Lab. We have Jeph in the corner, we got Tanisha, and we got Seher. And without any further ado, I am going to just pass things over to them and see where this conversation takes us. Thank you very much also for that kind invitation to have questions sent in advance. I know that a lot of people did send you some questions. Anybody who has questions throughout the presentation, please include those in the chat as you think about them, and hopefully there'll be some time you know, at the end of the session to kind of delve into some of those questions. So take it away, folks, and thanks again for doing this for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lynn. First things first, we were testing our audio, so can you guys give us a thumbs up if you guys can hear as well? Perfect. All right. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We're all really excited to be here and to share some information. There's tons out there that you can learn about social media, and we're going to try to delve into a little bit that could be specific to nonprofits, and as Lynn mentioned, you know, working with tight budgets and small teams. So we have here Jeph from Strategy Lab, Tanisha, and Seher. Fun story, Seher actually went through one of our employment programs at Open Door, and now she works at Strategy Lab, and it's just so great to have her here. She knows so much, and when Jeph said, you know, let's bring her in, I was really, really excited because there's a lot of knowledge in this table, and I always say that the more brains, the better. So we're really, really excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm like, they're smarter than I am now. I used to do these on my own, and when we were talking about who should do this, I was like, oh my God, so like, you need to be here. And then Tanisha's looking over. I'm like, well, yeah, both of you guys. So yeah, ask any question you want. There's no bad question out there. We do this for a living. If you looked at Tanisha's or Seher's phone and how many Instagram accounts they have right now, it's incredible. So we're in the weeds. I literally just posted a contest before we got into this call. Very quiet. And we love it. So like I said, no bad questions. Interrupt us. Send it through chat. I have it on here in chat if you have any questions too. We're just happy to be here.
All right. So with that, I am going to share screen, put together a presentation for you guys. So I am going to ask everyone if for the presentation, if you could turn off your cameras. Sometimes it gets a bit slow if there's too many cameras going on at the same time. Perfect. Okay, so what we put together is social media for nonprofits. It's one of the things that you do whenever you're doing marketing for any organization. And what we wanted to focus on is how to make it happen without getting overwhelmed. Because as we've said, there's so much that you can do, but sometimes there might be only one of you or a few of you with a tight budget, and keeping it simple helps make things successful. All right, so that's just a bit of who we are. Tanisha's photo to be added later. And okay, so today we want to focus on tools and resources. I'll talk a little bit about that and defining your audience and your goals, getting creative, and then measuring to make sure that all of these things that you're doing are successful. All right, so within tools and resources, there's a few things to keep in mind. So you need to find tools and resources for creating content, to manage your social media, and then also to put together a content calendar that helps you have things out there in a way that's manageable. Sorry.
Still admitting people.
So many people. Okay, so for creating content, so many things out there. So you can get super fancy with an Adobe Creative Suite if you have the budget and also the people that can use those tools. But you can also use things like Canva, which is what we use to put together this presentation. But Canva is evolving so much to do so many more things other than just creating graphics. You can edit photos, edit videos, audio, and all kinds of things. And so the idea is to find the tools that work best for you and your organization and your capacity. So for example, at Open Door, I mostly use Canva, but we do have someone in staff that will make things for me on Illustrator that I just can't, but we're lucky to have that. Other organizations may have a little bit more, a little bit less, but I think the main thing is just finding something that fits your capacity.
Well, the cool part about Canva, and maybe tell the story about last night when three of us were, so you can all be working on the presentation at once. So last night we were putting like the final touches on it. So you could I could watch Victoria updating the slides. So I'm like, oh, I won't work on that one. I'll work at the end. And such an interesting, almost like Google Docs if you use that for collaboration, but very easy to work on the same file instead of, okay, update it. Here's my track changes. Can you do that? You don't need to do that with Canva. It is such a good tool.
For sure. It's a great collaboration thing. And another thing that I really like about many tools that are out there is ask about nonprofit discounts and see how far a free license can get you. If you go on their site and it does not say anything about a nonprofit discount, email them. I will always, like any tool that I'm looking at, I will Google tool plus nonprofit discount. Something will come up. If nothing comes up, I'll contact them and say like, hey, I'm from this organization. This is what we do. And I would love to use your tool. I'm wondering if you have a nonprofit tier or a nonprofit discount. Sometimes even when they don't, they'll give you like a 10-20% discount. And some have set processes for that. Some, like I said, is just connecting with them. But it, especially when you're working on a budget, you can get things free or heavily discounted. Canva is one of those that you can get it free for nonprofits. I think the process has slowed down a little bit in terms of how quick they are to get back to you, but definitely check that out. And then the other thing when you're creating content is stock photos are nice. And when you have a tool like Canva, you can get access to all kinds of stock photos, but your photos of your clients, of your staff or your volunteers are always going to be better. So this picture, for example, is not a stock photo. It's a photo of our youth program during their Indigenous education workshop a couple summers ago. And it's a photo that has done great on social media. We've used it in annual reports. Like you can see them just really embody like what they did. And it's so much better than any stock photo I could ever find.
There's just a question about TechSoup, if that's still a thing.
Yes, TechSoup is great. If you want to get the Adobe Suite, you can get the Adobe Suite discounted at TechSoup and other things as well. There aren't a lot.
As I just sit back, I'm like, I don't think it's a thing anymore because I don't think I'm using it. And you say, no, it's absolutely a thing. So
yes.
Good. Hot mouth, Jeph. Good.
But it's not as, for creative tools other than the Adobe Creative Suite, there isn't much. Like you can get Google Workspace, Microsoft discounted licenses, but for creative tools, I would say check in with whatever tool you're looking at and see what the discounts they have. But TechSoup is good for, you can actually look at their catalog and see what exists there. And if there's any tool that you want to use from there, it's not the most user-friendly and the setup is, it's a little bit of work, but once you have that down, it's pretty good. All right, and then other tools that that I like to use are things like Grammarly, and that goes back to again being a team of one or two people. And when I write something, whether it's copy for a blog post or for social media, if I wrote it and I read it, there's likely I will miss something. A tool like Grammarly allows me not only to make sure that like there's no spelling mistakes, typos, or things like that, but also it allows you to set a tone and to set goals for what you're writing. So let's say if I'm writing for social media, what I'm writing is a lot more informal and and a friendly tone, and my goals are usually to calls to actions, that kind of thing. Whereas if I'm writing a report, it's a lot more formal. The tone is very different as well. And another thing that we're talking about is how can you write a lot of content without having to do a lot of work? And I'm not sure, I'm sure many of you have heard about ChatGPT, but it's something that the folks at Strategy Lab have been using a lot.
Exactly. Who all in here uses Grammarly? You don't?
No, I don't. I don't.
She will be after this.
Yes.
Yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about Grammarly. I'm pretty sure it's free too. Like we don't pay for the pro version.
If you're a nonprofit, there's also a free tier, and they are changing it. During the pandemic, it was entirely free, as many licenses as you want. Now you only get a limited amount of licenses that are free, and then after that you pay a discounted amount per license. But again, like I said, reach out to them, tell them about what you do, and that you'd love to get a discount, or like what their nonprofit discount is, and there's lots there.
So if you have lots of content you need to create, chat has been a godsend for us. We used to use Jasper, a different AI. Whether you now for social media, sure, you can ask it to write. Now, what I would challenge you to do after this is actually go to chat, and I know it's scary. I talked to a Business 100 class, and half the class was scared to even try it. So I want you to go try it just to see what it can do, because we have written marketing plans, social media strategy. You can basically ask chat to do anything, and it'll give you an answer. Now, another reason we've used it is if you're writing a grant proposal or you have a whole bunch of content, you need to summarize it. You can give chat literally pages of content and tell it to summarize in a paragraph. And for our website team, that's how we create content now. We'll take your old content and get chat to revise it based on your tone. I cannot say enough good things about chat. Is anybody else using it for anything else?
I'm using it.
I use it for a lot of website content. If I have trouble coming up with certain things, like if I'm doing a website for a construction company, obviously I don't know a lot about construction. So then I'll just ask chat to do it for me. I'll give them the name, what I need from them, and it'll write me a paragraph. And then I just plug it in and it's good to go.
Yeah.
Also, it's really good for social media ideas. When you're like in that phase where like, what should I post? What should I do? Just ask chat, like, I'm a nonprofit organization bringing newcomers into Canada. Give me some ideas to post. And it will literally give you points, and you can just work on that and post. It just makes your life very easier.
It's a really great tool. There is a lot of different artificial intelligence tools that are coming out for so many things. The great thing with ChatGPT is that it's free. Unlike others, you don't have to pay or like look for a discount. All you have to do is spend the time to learn about it and figure out how it works best for you, if it works best for you, right? So a tool is only as good as what you do with it. In the case of ChatGPT, is sometimes it's like hiring an extra person to write things for you. And in most cases, you don't have to put exactly what it came up, but it gives you a really good foundation of where to start, and saves you tons of time. And as Jeph said, like for grant writing, it's amazing summarizing things. So usually that's the one thing that takes a long time, especially when your organization has lots happening. So with this, I just have a few things to remember. Keeping things simple has been one of the keys to success for me. When I started in this role, I had a long list of things that I wanted to have in my tech stack for marketing, and then I realized that's a lot. I'm just spending time trying to work these tools, and keeping it simple always helped me make sure that things worked well. Taking advantage of open source content and free resources. In many cases, for example, there's a company called HubSpot. They have great CRM tools, way out of our budget. Probably would not ever use it, but I'm on their blog all the time. They have a ton of amazing templates for social media calendars and like any marketing related things that I use consistently. So although I haven't purchased that license, I am using their resources all the time because they're really, really useful. And remembering there's always something new to learn, especially with something like social media. Things change really fast and really often. And, being out there learning new skills, whether it's now using AI to write things with ChatGPT, or moving to a tool like Canva instead of Photoshop for graphics. Things are changing fast. And if you're okay with learning new things and moving things fast, it's a really great start to success.
On that note too, don't be afraid to kind of strike up a learning committee. I remember when TikTok first came out, we had this thing called Learning Friday. And it was literally just to learn about what everybody else was doing. And so don't overthink this one. You should always be a little bit uncomfortable. As funny as that sounds, you should be a little bit uneasy about what's next, just because we don't know. But I do know the one thing I can guarantee you is that we'll always change. The platforms that are currently we're on, it won't be there in 5 to 10 years. So just get used to that uneasy that, oh, I have to learn another platform. I know we all have to go through that. We can start a support group together.
For sure. And then next, I'm just going to talk a little bit about social media management. Does that mean what tools you can use? So depending on how many platforms you're on, it's sometimes really, really helpful to actually use a tool to help you do that. So there's a ton of tools out there. Like if you look up social media management tools, you're going to be flooded with things out there. I have set up 3 that are kind of best for different things. So there's a platform called Buffer. They're one of the cheapest ones. Hootsuite, there's really good for many platforms. That's the one I use. And then there's Sprout Social. It's also pretty good, and it has really, really good analytics. It's quite comparable to Hootsuite. I went with Hootsuite because I like the way it laid out things. And then again, going back to this, all of these companies have those amazing resources. Like with Hootsuite, for example, they have a lot of webinars, workshops, blogs that are super useful that I'm always looking at. Going back to what Jeph said, it's always learning, right? Because I don't have to do all that research. They do it as part of their marketing strategy, and I get to learn from it. So that has been really, really useful. So here I just have a kind of screenshot of what my dashboard looks like, just to give you an example of what I mean by a social media platform. This is just like the dashboard where I manage in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for Open Door. It kind of gives me an overview of like, how am I doing in terms of followers, engagement, and posting. I mentioned the learning stuff. It'll give me new things all the time. So scheduling reels and learning about TikTok. Here, if I haven't scheduled enough things, it'll let me know, be like, hey, your scheduling thing is low, and it allows me to make sure that I'm on top of things. And it gives me an overview of like my top performing posts. And within the tool, I can see things in more detail as well. And then this is just an example of like what my March calendar looked like. So I did this in December. Most of December, I schedule as much as possible for January, because January is not only close enough to March, which is fiscal year end for many nonprofits, but also New Year. So things are super busy. So having things scheduled ahead of time allowed me to focus on other things and kind of get situated with everything we had to do. But it was really helpful. And as you can see
in chat, someone mentioned later. Yeah, Kayla, we hear you.
Yeah.
Used to use it, used to teach it. Do I want to tell them what we actually use?
Sure.
We use Google Docs for ours, and it's the simplest way to manage posting content for my small brain. I want to make it so simple that all it is a column for photos or photos and video, and then your captions. If you want to get fancy, you can put a date beside it, but I like having a shared doc between the client, our team, and myself, so that it's very simple. I have used Later. I set up Later at one point. Did we talk about the back end of Facebook? Or is that next?
Yeah, that's next. Yeah. So these are social media management tools, and then you also have your content planner, right? So as Jeph mentions, like having a plan that allows you to lay things out is really helpful. And then these tools allow you to manage all of your platforms in one place. So for example, if I were only managing Facebook and Instagram, I wouldn't spend the money on Hootsuite, because Facebook Business Manager has a built-in social media management tool that you can use. So you can schedule things directly from there. And that tool is mainly to the plan ahead and do ahead. So I'm not having to manually write captions, upload things, and schedule things on each platform on their own.
The metrics on that side. Yeah. In 13 years of being a part of this world, I can honestly say the back end of Facebook is finally, it's nice. Which I feel it's almost an oxymoron to say that,
Mhm.
because Facebook's never been good in the back end. But
Mhm.
if you haven't been lately because you've been scarred, I feel you. I feel you.
For
There's
sure.
also a really good, so there's a really good question here. I've struggled finding a tool that works for all my needs, mainly pulling real TikTok and story data. So the problem there is you can't pull TikTok data with the rest of them. The comment is it's easy to find Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But to pull those all together, TikTok sucks to me on reporting. And I just know that from our reports, TikTok's the one that sucks for myself. The other ones I'm fine with, but Aaron, maybe we take that offline to figure out a solution to that, because I would love actually a better way to report on TikToks. I don't currently have that. So maybe one of us makes a note of that, because I actually want to figure that out. But great question, Aaron. Oh, you get the prize already for the best question.
They know, like Hootsuite, but like about 6 months ago or around then, they've added TikTok as one of the platforms that you can manage through there. Their reporting about like all the metrics is really, really good. Something that they do that I love is you can compare your account with other similar accounts. So I will compare our account with other settlement agencies just to see like, you know, how do we compare in that realm, and like what are they posting, how often.
Do you find your your reports?
Yeah.
I'm sure the boss likes to see where you come up compared to other similar organizations.
Yeah, no, it's really great to just, again, because you can compare similar size organizations, similar mandates, that kind of thing. And it gives you a really good sense of how are you doing, not just to see your own stuff, but in comparison to similar organizations. That's something that's built into Hootsuite. I'm not sure if there's other ways to do that other than like manually looking at. And I'm sure places like Sprout and other things might have similar things. But kind of going back to this, if you're only managing one or two, stick to that platform's scheduling tools. If you're managing more than one, and you're managing a lot of content that you need to schedule, I would highly suggest getting a tool to help you with that, because it can get overwhelming when you're going to, 4 platforms with, a number of posts per day from different programs in your organization and all of that. It can get really overwhelming.
Another good question. If we only use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, would you recommend a third-party platform for using Facebook and Insta, built-in manager, and then use Twitter separately? How would you go about that with those 3?
It depends how often you use Twitter. Twitter is one of those that if it's like something where you're super active, where you're scheduling lots of things, maybe if it's worth it. Like, look at the cost of the tool itself, but also look at how much time you're going to spend on it and spending on managing the tool. If it's just those 3 and it's not a lot of content, I would stick with Facebook Business Manager and then using Twitter on its own, especially because Twitter is not one of those that you usually put a lot of media, like graphic media out as well. And then just Jeff's going to talk about your goals and that kind of thing. Always think back to the goals that you have set out when making those decisions.
Yeah, because that's how we run a lot of ours. Would be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And what I will do is I'll grab the media file, save it to my phone, copy the caption, and then for some accounts, you're actually manually posting Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And I know that sucks, but I'm a little bit, I don't like scheduling things. And I've been proven wrong on this too. I will admit that. I don't think I am the authority on that. But for myself, I like to be able to see it and then go check back to make sure it's posted the way I wanted it. But I think I'm old school. Seher, you need to talk more. I need to shut up.
So yeah, the scheduling part is one of those things that helps you stay afloat in a sense, especially if you're a lot of nonprofits, you either doing this on the side of your desk or you're the only person doing it for the whole organization. So if you don't set up a plan that helps you keep ahead of things, it's going to get overwhelming, and that I find impacts the way you can have fun with things and get creative with things, because you're spending time on making sure things are out when, many things could have been scheduled a month ahead, and then other things you post them as you go. But then again, you're not worrying like, oh no, like it's Mother's Day. Do we have something out? Okay, let's make a Mother's Day post. Whereas like if you knew that's something you wanted to acknowledge, you could have scheduled it 3 months in advance. And then when it comes to it,
Like, it's very stressful for the person running it when they say, oh my God, it's Mother's Day, we need a post. Or when somebody emails you on a Wednesday morning and says, we need a contest today for the Pats game Friday. I'm not bitter, I'm not upset about it, but I realize on my team, if I ask somebody to do something last minute, that's a stressor that they didn't realize before the day. And you may not think that's a stressor. Whoever you're asking to post, that is a major stressor. So please come up with stuff. And I say that, but I'm like, we still do stuff last minute. So I apologize. But
And I think with that is like setting up a process that reflects your capacity. With this, there isn't like, this is the right best way to do it. But rather it's like, how many people do you have working on this? What is your budget? What is your time? And what are your goals? And make up a process that reflects all of that. So for example, in my case at Open Door, we have our language services team, employment team, settlement team. Within settlement, there is a ton of other teams, childcare center, and then our own messaging. And everybody needs something out because everyone has programs, everyone has events. So when I started, they used to just email me things, and that could get overwhelming really quick. So what I did is I set up a form that people can fill out where they give me all the details I need is, who's the request from, what is the program, a link to the graphic if it's done in Canva or like wherever it is, a caption that because they know best, they know what the program or event is about. And then other details, kind of like if they have a budget to boost that, or if that needs like our funder approval, or like all the things that I need that are very specific to me, come in that form. And anytime someone submits that, I have a really good record of all the requests. So I can use that to schedule things ahead, and I can have peace of mind, but also I can tell them like, hey, it's all done, it's scheduled, so they know that those things are out there and everyone is on the same page. So that process really works for us. I've written kind of like a guideline about, what the expectations are, what everything means. And I regularly check in with each team just to see like, hey, we have all of this schedule. Is all of this still happening? Is there anything new that you guys have happening? And, it helps us make sure that at the end of the day, everything that we want to communicate to our potential clients, donors, volunteers is out there. All right. And okay, so the next thing is that content calendar. So that's kind of what Jeph was talking about, his Google Doc. So that content calendar is kind of that planning ahead to see what you're going to have out. And for your content calendar, there's a lot of things that you can add to it. You can keep it as simple as Jeph mentioned, which is like the
Picture and caption and date if you like it.
yeah. Or you can add more things, right? Like if you set up a process, you can set up an approval steps, comments, that kind of thing. This is something that you can do on an Excel sheet, Google Doc. If you have Google Doc is great. Google Docs are great to collaborate. So if it's more than one person in your team, then you can all look at it. I go back and forth with content planning. I set one up, and sometimes I'll stick to it. Sometimes I'll forget about it and just go with everything that has been scheduled through that ad request form. So it all goes back to like the tools working for your capacity and for meeting the goals that you've set out for yourself.
In chat, someone mentioned Asana, which, what's the other one? Do you still use a different one?
Oh, no, we're just used to.
No, Asana.
Trello?
Oh, Trello.
Trello, yeah, Trello.
Yeah, those are really great. I found one that's called ClickApp because I've tried Monday, I have tried Asana, I have tried Trello. For me, they're all really great. I couldn't get into their layout. I didn't like their layout, the way that you could lay out things. And I found I was spending more time trying to make it work for me. So again, it goes back to like, this is a great tool, but is it making things easier for me? And it's adding more work. I do use ClickUp, especially when we have summer students, because it's a similar tool to Asana. I just like the way it lays out things differently. And it also has a better free tier. And then a really great nonprofit discount as well. But again, if you want to keep it simple, any kind of spreadsheet will work for this. And again, if you make it part of your plan, make sure it's intentional. If it's adding more work for you, maybe figure out something else to to manage all of your content. And then things to post.
Cool. Okay, so I would say after 8 years of struggling about social media and how to manage an account, one day we were just like, oh my God, all the best accounts have these 3 things in common. There's people, they're passionate about something, and they share something about their projects. Now, usually when we take over a social account or work with someone, the number one thing is they post too much and there's not enough variety. And my running joke is hair salons, backs of heads. We get it. That's what you do. You don't need to show us that. This way, if you have your 3 Ps, now another thing too, it doesn't have to be 3 Ps. It could be 4. It could be 3 C. It could be anything, as long as you can figure out several different ways to create content. And very simply put, if you need some engagement, you need some likes, show your people. And this is key because generally people don't want to be shown. So if your people are agreeing to it, it's because they like you. It's a very positive thing. Secondly, if you're not passionate about something, well, what are you doing? Of course you are, because you guys are running nonprofits. Of course you're passionate about something. So, and I don't mean the cause. I mean, what do you care about? What's your favorite tea? What do you do in your afternoon break? What do you care about on the weekends when you're not busy? Start sharing things outside of simply work. Lastly, projects is work. And so internally, we have this kind of thing called being consistently surprising. And think about that. That's very, very difficult to be consistently surprising, but it's not impossible. Now, when I would look at my content calendar, I'm looking at it and saying, do I have too many people? Do I have too many passions? Do I have too many projects? And I'm always creating what I don't have. So I would challenge you to go to the accounts you like, go to the accounts on social media that you really enjoy, and ask yourself, well, why do I like this? For myself, it's generally because I see people, and generally I see what they care about. And lastly, yeah, I can see their work, but that's kind of like the side benefit. I want to see humans. A couple examples.
No, but we have it.
We'll go to those examples later. We have examples though, don't worry.
But going back to these things, if you want to do find more resources, if usually what these are called are like content pillars, and they can be specific to what you do. So your content pillar could be, let's say if you're running an animal shelter, it could be the pets, the adopters, the process, like whatever category that you can put together and create content based on that. And when you're planning that stuff ahead of time, as Jeph said, you can make sure that you don't have the same thing repeated all in one week, and you can put variety out there. And again, going back to what are you trying to communicate to people? What are you trying to get people to do? Like what is the purpose of sharing this?
And I think the struggle is we have a lot of clients like, well, no, we have to share. We have to publish this stuff. And we're sitting back saying, no, you don't. And obviously somebody, the powers that be, say you have to. And I'm sure some of you are in that position of, I don't want to share this, but I have to. And that sucks. But that's why we have to kind of bake in our own stuff that's going to help engagement. Whereas when we post the poster with all of the text, we're not going to get any engagement on it.
Yeah. So then what does all of that look like in terms of a process and a kind of timeline? So, ahead of the first thing you'd want to do is plan your content, figure out, and you can give yourself the next week, the next 2 weeks, a month. I like doing things in month chunks because it just helps not be stressed about what's happening next week, because time is flying. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or because time is actually faster now. But so plan your stuff ahead. Be proactive versus reactive. That goes back to, any holidays, any dates, any announcements that are going to happen. Have that schedule ahead of time and don't do it the day before or the day off. I've done that and it's really stressful. And then get creative. That's the fun part. That's where you take your photos, make your videos, your reels, make graphics or a combination of it all. And then writing that effective copy or those are the captions. And then here I would say, remember your key messages and your audience and keep it simple. Sometimes I see captions that are really, really long, and I know I'm going to read the beginning of it. If I'm interested enough, maybe the end. But if I'm looking at my phone, I'm not really there to read. Unless it's something that I'm really, really interested in, scrolling through long captions is tough. And adding to that, if you have a call to action, that can get lost on a lot of text if you're not focusing on that. So make sure that that copy is short, concise. It's also makes sense for your audience. So who's reading that, and would they be enticed to do whatever you're asking them to do through that? And then schedule your content. So, once you have your creative, your captions, you plan your content, schedule it ahead of time. And then after all of that is out, keep the engagement going. So that's where after something's posted, don't just let it be. Whenever possible, you can, what I like to do is connect with other nonprofits that are similar to ours and ask them like, hey, can you share this on your story? I will always engage with their content, and often people reciprocate. And you also get to learn about what people are doing. Whenever people comment on your stuff, reply, whether it's, directly there or a direct message if that is a better fit. But, that engagement, make sure that things are visible.
It's a great comment. Erin, you're killing it here today, by the way. I can't say enough about reviewing your analytics periodically. Yes, if you're lost in your account, look at your analytics. It'll tell you whether you should be doing something different or not. And then the last line, we've done this legwork, and now we have the data that backs up our strategy when we get questioned about our content. If you want to know your stuff in a meeting, understand your data, understand exactly what's going on, then you're the smartest person in the room, because you can show the powers of be. No, this is how it's working. This is how people are finding it. This is what content's doing well, and own that data. Yes.
Yeah, and with all that data, a lot of this, whether it's a scheduling tool or business manager, all of those things can give you information about who are your followers, when are they active, and what content people are looking at. So let's say if most of your followers are active on a, Saturday night at 2 a.m., schedule something for it. Doesn't mean you have to physically do it at that time and work then, but schedule ahead so you know that a lot of people are going to be looking at that. Okay, so I just wanted to emphasize some things in the getting creative thing of this process. So things to keep in mind that I've noticed when it comes to successful accounts, especially the ones that I like to pay attention at, is keep your content size to fit the platform. Sometimes I will see, something I'm really interested in, but unfortunately they will share the poster that was meant for print to be blown out really big, and I can't really read the details, and I'm squinting, and it's hard, and it just wasn't meant to go on social media. If you most people look at social media on their phones, sometimes Facebook on the computer, but likely on their phones. So if that content is not sized for the platform and for the device where you're looking at, people miss out on a lot of things, or maybe they'll scroll past.
Well, think about how when we first had phones, this is how we filmed video. And now when I see this, and I'm like, Mom, stop it, go this way. It's gonna go on social. So, and the other test we did at one point was Instagram content. When you post an actual longer photo, you'll get more engagement because you actually have more timeshare of someone scrolling. Whereas if you post a vertical, like a landscape photo, you only have a small chance that someone can actually like it. So technically speaking, you should always be posting longer, or when you're shooting video, always like this. Not like this, Mom.
Yeah, and before it was all about the horizontal, right? It's I knew I had to shoot horizontal and edit it that way. And then TikTok and Reels came up, and now it's all vertical content. So whenever I ask people to take photos of their programs, that I always add, make sure you take it vertical. So I know if I get it horizontal, it's not going to be the best content. And then going back to especially graphics, if the text can go on the caption, don't put it on the graphic. Your graphic should be, a lot of algorithms will not really push graphics with a lot of text, and those don't really get shown as often. And also, again, it's how, are you excited about a graphic with a lot of text on it? Most people will just scroll past, unless they're your number one supporter that are going to make sure they look at that. But if it can go on the caption,
it's a giveaway post.
yeah. But even then, it's even for accessibility, not everyone can read really, really tiny text on a graphic.
There's one question here from Shauna. How do I find the data for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn? Data, I think she means the measurement side of things. Yeah, so for Facebook IG, that would be in the back end of Meta. That will be in the same place. Twitter will be different and LinkedIn will be different. But what I would suggest is pick your 1 or 2 measurables from each one, because when you get in there, you're going to find a lot of stuff. Figure out what your goal is. And generally that could be, engagement per post or follower counts. Either screenshot it or write it down with a date. We screenshot a lot because a screenshot has a date attached to it and now a starting point. So I love love screenshot, and that starts my strategy. For all 4 of those, Shauna, screenshot that and then set your 3-month goal, your yearly goal. And from there, your strategy will dictate what you need from that goal setting. But I don't, LinkedIn, I think I know where insights are. Twitter, you're just gonna have to get into settings. Generally, it's buried a couple clicks away. You can message me. If you can't find it, message me and I think I can find it for you. But if anything, it's more so just get comfortable getting in there, finding your metric that you want to measure, and then track that and go look each month, write down that number and see. We have one client that I think I report 4 numbers, and it's the contact us page visits for 2 pages on their website and then Facebook and Instagram. That's it. For the entire company, I report 4 numbers a month. That's it. But the more you report, the less people listen. And so simplify how you're reporting, ask them what actually matters.
And then also going back to, if you have a social media management tool, they have really good built-in analytics that you can it just pulls from each platform, and it can give you so many reports. A lot of these tools are meant for, like, they cater really heavily to e-commerce. So they're going to give you so many numbers for everything. And the key is just making sure, as Jeph said, pick the things that are important that will help you come up with a plan and focus on that, because otherwise you're going to get overwhelmed. Like, even if you look at the back end of Meta, like Facebook Business Manager, whenever you're generating a report for the analytics for all the posts that you have out, you're going to scroll forever for all the things that you can, like, select that it will show you. So pick what's important and go with that. And then I think just the last thing with this slide is, like, would you interact with that content? So if you're putting things out, just look at it and even, check in with some people in the office, like, hey, do you like this? Or, does this make sense to you? Because you want to put things out there that are interesting, because it is social media, right? Like, it's something that is out there for a bit, and then it gets so saturated that you want to have things out there that are fun to interact with. And this is.
So remember, back to people, passions, projects. We just have a few accounts to show you, accounts that we follow, that we look up to. Can anybody guess who this is? No,
Sorry.
Jesus Christ. It's Seher, and it's just a cool way to show how, to me, this is how you should be running a social account. Again, there's not too much of anything. If you look at her posts, there's some people, it looks like there's some projects going on, perks of attending, that sounds like that's something. Things that you're passionate about. This is a mental health checkpoint, so things they care about. So when I need inspiration, now I do serve on a committee with Talitha, so I know her well. It's an uplifting account, it's worth a follow. Next. Another nonprofit that I absolutely love. Now, in their defense, not a huge following from Government House, but to be honest, I love their reels, and I've commented several times. They're not like overly well produced, and actually we had this conversation the other day about the higher end production, the lower end engagement, just because we know if it's being well produced. But they're funny, they're educational moments that are actually making it fun for people that are on their account. I want to actually help them create some of the content, because I think it's so cool taking an educational spin on something that a lot of us don't like. Well, I don't know a lot about that. So if you want inspiration for reels, check them out. Lastly, I wanted to use this as an example of, can you guess which photo in this set got the most engagement? Which one got the most likes out of all of these photos? Anybody? Throw it in the comments, or unmute yourself and blurt it out. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, I'll let you know.
The penguin, most likely, the one with the 2 people. The socks.
So technically, yes, the socks won, because if you see the face above the socks, now there's a mask on her face, but her eyes are smiling. When your eyes are smiling in a photo, it's very attractive. The second one are the 2 people, second down in the middle. Everything else isn't even close to those 2 for like counts. And like Victoria was talking about, the more text you use in an image, the more the algorithm's gonna smack you down. So if you can, don't put text in an image. If you have to, like we're hiring, cool, put everything else in the caption. And yes, I still fight with clients about this all the time. This morning I told the client, no, we don't want to put more text in there. On Facebook, you won't be able to boost things sometimes if you put too much text in it. So again, go to some of your favorite accounts, ask yourself, what do you love about it? Same thing about some of your accounts. What do you love about them? What are people going to interact with? And yes, I know you're going to have to put some of the hiring and thank you posts, but in between, you can sprinkle some of that love.
Yeah. And for Facebook, like if you want to post a picture with text, just get rid of the picture overall and just post the text, because on Facebook, you can actually post text, whereas on Instagram, you cannot do that. So I feel like for Facebook, it's completely pointless posting pictures with text on it.
Ooh, good question. Should photos be watermarked with an org logo?
I think that's up to you. I don't watermark our photos. So I know some people do it in some so for example, let's say if we're acknowledging Indigenous History Month or Pride Month, I always struggle whether we slap a logo on it or not, because like it's not about us, it's about us acknowledging something outside of us.
Yeah.
So I think that goes back to your strategy and like what is your brand? How does that work with your branding, right? So I think context matters, and also like how do you want that to come out? Because if I see photos with a lot of watermarks and logos in them, it looks a little bit more curated rather than authentic.
Yeah. My initial reaction, Misty, was no, I don't want your logo in the post because it's posted on your account.
Exactly.
And so it's a little redundant. And the second follow-up was, does that make the algorithm mad? Yes, actually, that's a really good question. Anything outside of an image, and you got to understand these platforms are literally studying what you're posting in real time to either flag it to say yes or no, which is also why you should have a liking brigade when you post something. You should get a bunch of people to like it because you're going to trick the algorithm into thinking it's more popular than it is.
Yeah. Also, like, imagine yourself going through an Instagram feed where you see a bunch of logos on every post. Would you be interested? Would you actually scroll through it? No, because it gets boring. Like, I feel like you lose interest very easily. Okay, so before you start, one of the most important things is defining your audience and setting your goals, because if you don't set your goals, how are you going to measure your success? So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so obviously this depends, from on your organization, who your audience is, who's your primary audience, who's your secondary audience, but they can be somewhere along the lines of the people who are going to benefit or receive your services or programs, your potential volunteers, your prospective donors, or even your corporate sponsors. And your secondary audience is basically anyone who is a conduit to your ideal donor or your primary audience. So it could be like, imagine you're running a campaign or a fundraiser, and an influencer, local influencer who has a following of your primary audience. You may reach out to that person and tell them to share your post. And this way she's reaching directly to your primary audience, but you're reaching to her. So she's your secondary audience, and obviously fends off your primary audience. So now you know who your audience is. What do you do with this information? You get to know them. Oh no, it's okay. So what do you do with this information? Like, think of it like this. Imagine you're buying a gift for someone who you know, and you're buying a gift for someone who you don't know. Obviously, it's going to be easier to buy a gift for someone you know, because you know who they are, what they're like, what do they like to, eat, what do they like to do. So it's the same thing with your audience. Like, who are they? How old are they? What do they like to do? Which social media platforms are they on? Do they have kids? What's their gender? Once you know all of this, this is the exciting part, because now you have a picture of them inside your head. So the next time you make that post, the next time you write that caption, you're going to have a visualization of them inside your head. And now you're actually talking to them and not just putting out information on your social media accounts. Hope that's clear. Moving to the next slide now. So your goals obviously depends on your organization as well. Make sure your goals are measurable, because if they're measurable, obviously then you can see if you're meeting your goals or not. So a few examples of this may be by April 30th, you want to have 500 followers on Instagram, or you want to have like more than 20 likes per post, or 10 profile visits. Like, it could be anything. It may be different if you're starting off. If you're starting off, maybe you want more followers, maybe you want more engagement. But if you're like, you already have a good following, maybe it's something like, maybe you want to hire more volunteers, maybe you want to get more clicks, maybe you want to get more donations. There's also a donation sticker on Instagram that you can use, which is like, it's very easy to get donations that way, but those are like afterwards. Anyway, so also, like, it's when you're deciding your goals, it's really important to think about what what do you want to be known for? What are your real world outcomes that matter to your organization? So once you know that, it's very easy to set your social media goals as well. We're just going to move to the next slide now. So I took some screenshots of some of the numbers, at the back, and don't be overwhelmed. It's just like, and you're going to see the examples now. Also, like, the numbers tell you something. You need to listen to the numbers, and then you need to adjust your strategy accordingly. So over here, if your strategy is to increase new Instagram followers and get new page likes, the numbers show that you're doing something right. So keep on doing what you're doing. Let's move on to the next one. Page and profile visits. Yeah. So if your goal is to increase your Facebook page visits and Instagram profile visits, these numbers look good. But if one of them were like decreasing, then you ask yourself questions like, what am I doing wrong? Is it the time that I'm posting on? Should I post on the weekend instead of the weekday? Like, why am I not getting page visits? This gets really interesting because you get to experiment a lot. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, same thing here, Facebook page reach. As you can see that the numbers are declining. So now you need to adjust your strategy accordingly. Now, if your strategy was, if your goal was getting more followers, now you need to change it to getting more reach on Facebook if your target audience is on Facebook. If your target audience isn't on Facebook, then honestly, ignore these numbers. Don't worry about it. But if they are on Facebook, then you need to start adjusting your strategy. Maybe you need to start posting more status updates. Maybe you need to post a video on Facebook. Maybe you need to, post less on Facebook, because sometimes even when you post a lot on Facebook, that kind of feels like people on the other end feel like you're spamming them. So you need to be careful for that. And the next slide, this is just a screenshot of StratLab.
Yeah, so this is, if you click your insights under, if you have a business account, now for some of you, if you haven't switched over to a business account, do it because you have way more ways to measure. Same thing on TikTok, we learned you need to switch over to a business account if you want to measure. This is once you hit insights, you can go into here, and this is the screen I love to screenshot, because if you look there, accounts reached, accounts engaged, and total followers. I always say, if those numbers are green, Jeff's happy. Those numbers aren't green, so Jeph is not happy right now. Now, this is for our own account, so I'm not entirely surprised, because I don't think we're that good at Instagram.
But
sorry,
I was going to say, also look at the date, because sometimes if you
Yeah.
look at like a month versus a few days, they'll be different. So one time I looked at it and everything was red, but it was like it was like over a holiday thing. So there's nothing. I was like,
yeah.
what is happening? It's like, wait, no, I'll do the month. It's like, okay, no. And
It's
the trends are
always-
still positive.
It's always good to compare every 3 months, I feel like, because that shows you more accurate information, because monthly, I feel like it could be a bit, based on other things.
Mhm.
But once you're in here, if you click the See All button under content you shared, it'll end up showing your content, and you can change the date range to 2 years. And so the next slide would be, this is StratLab's best post for the last 2 years based on likes.
Mhm.
And I love showing this because our #1 most popular post is 2 women swinging in Wascana Park. And it's just a story about, they were giggling along. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it just goes to show you that context matters a lot when you're posting. And it's kind of all over the map for our most popular ones. Generally, there's people in them though. You see, 5 of the top 6 have people in them. We also realized that I think it was 3 of the top 6 have to do something with community, technically 4 of the top 6. So if you think about that, if you want, and you guys are all community organizations, so that shouldn't be hard, but showing what you do, showing what you care about, showing yourself in the community, I think is going to always help. Next.
Yeah. Okay, so a big part of my job is editing reels, and I really, really enjoy doing it. So I love this question. Whoever asked this, thank you. So basically, I've tried a lot of video editing apps, and the one that worked for me is, can we move to the next slide, please? Is CapCut. Let me know in the chat if you've used this before. But the thing that I love most about this app is that I know sometimes we're out of ideas. We're like, okay, we have these videos and we want to edit it. What should we do? Like, what music should we use? What transitions should we use? So this has the option called AutoCAD, where you literally just click it, choose the videos you want, choose the pictures you want, and the app for free will make like 7 or 8 edits from it, and you can choose whichever you like. And let's say if you like one, but you want to change something from that video that the app edited for you, you can just click it and then customize it according to your needs. Maybe you want to change the song. Maybe you don't like the transition. Maybe the video is about something serious and the app is putting confetti on it, because it happens sometimes. And so you can just remove it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I won't get into the detail too much, but can we move to the next slide, please? So once you edit manually, these are the options that you can get. You can add audio, you can add text, you can, you know how on TikTok you can set the duration for text, you can do that as well. You can play with effects, filters, you can split, as in cut the video in the places that you don't like. You can adjust the speed, the volume, you can add animations, and basically you can also, like, if you have a video of a person walking and you want to make it look like the camera is watching following the person walk, you can also choose their lock option. This is their new option, and I feel like it's such a useful one. So I know it can be overwhelming, but honestly, just go to YouTube and watch a 5-minute tutorial on it, and you'll be a professional at it, because that's how I learned. Let's move to the next question now.
And I just want to add to it, like, these are really great tools, but even if you want to start with the video editor on your phone, like that, to do simple things like
Go into Instagram and just use the templates.
Yeah,
You don't even have to get creative. You can just use what they've given you. That's how we started on a lot of accounts, just to show them, especially if they have if you have a lot of content, a lot of photos, use the templates.
CapCut's great.
There's a good question here, and I don't think I know the answer.
What
We
is
have
it?
an existing Facebook account. When I started doing our social media, it won't let me link to my Instagram account. So I had to do them separately. And my Instagram is linked to my personal account. Does anyone know a way to change this?
Yes, you can go to your Instagram and go to your privacy, and you can change the email. Remember what that thing happened with Albright and
yeah.
You
this is
can't-
the same thing.
yeah.
This is
You can't
why
link-
Seher's here.
yeah. You can't link a personal account. We have business. I believe it. You can link your personal Facebook to your personal Instagram,
Mhm.
but it just gets messy if you're linking because they've made some changes for the Facebook business accounts. Like it's a page, like you don't have a profile as an organization.
Yeah,
It really
exactly.
pushes you to have a page.
Yeah.
So
And
people are still making accounts on Facebook.
yeah. So if you have a page, you can link that to an Instagram page. But I think that goes back to looking at resources. Like if you just go to like the Meta homepage, and they have a lot of really helpful articles to do all of that.
Or that's from Dan Sask. DM Seher, and she
Yes.
can walk you through it, because we literally just had this problem with a client account.
I can send you screenshots of how to do it. I'm
We'll figure it out.
exactly. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
my
Like we have so many
ads
people
in.
All right.
This
This
is my
one-
Instagram. You can feel free to DM me, and I'll help you out with this.
And then what's the best way to locate a different company to help host a nonprofit website? Keep it up to date. So this is more like website management. I'll
We're
plug
on
in.
website.
I'll plug in StratLab. This is how I know Jeph. No, actually, I know Jeph through other things, and we ended up doing our website through StratLab, and they have been really, really great. You can do it on your own if you can manage CMS on your own. You have someone on your team that can do that. I would say for a website is worth the investment.
Well,
It's-
if anything, it's like build on WordPress. So your team, which is a bunch of rock stars, we're not doing a lot on it now. You guys have complete control. They have admin access, and what did you hear?
Good to hear.
Good
Yeah.
to hear is basically, there's a team of geniuses working in the back end that we don't really have to be there. Build on a platform that you can edit and change yourself over time.
Yeah.
That will save you so much in the long run.
I would say always steer away. Like if you're getting quotes from places, if someone is doing everything for you, that means they're gonna bill you for everything. And that's why I really like working with StratLab, because that was from the get-go. It's like, we're gonna build something that you guys can do all the small edits, and anything that is complicated coding, I just email Carter from StratLab. He is so quick and great at getting back to me and fixing things quick. But other than that, we're able to update our pages, our content, and all of that, and it doesn't cost us anything extra because we're not getting billed for that stuff.
MJ's got a good question. Would you update your website just as much as you update posts on socials?
Oh, no.
No.
How often is your website updated?
We only update our we add things to our calendar often, and anytime that a description or information about a program changes. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend updating your website all the time, because it just, A, is a lot of work, B, is like, why?
Am I gonna be the devil's advocate here? I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you ask me what Strategy Lab does, I would say we actually update our website more than we do social. And you
Okay.
could look at our blog, and we publish more on our blog than.
Wait, so by that because we publish stuff on our blogs, but I mean like update the website itself.
Oh, no. I think they just like updates on posts on your website.
Okay.
Because I'm like, you guys
Yes.
must update your website all the time.
Yes, like our calendar and our blog, because for SEO, we use like blog posts to go on social media and vice versa, especially for anything that you want to be found on the internet for. If you put it on a blog post, it's really good.
It's all for Google. Like
Yeah.
that's why I love this question. Because you're like,
Sorry, I thought you meant like update the website. I was like,
redo the website.
No.
No, never. No.
keep it simple. All right, next, how often do you post on social media to be active?
I think Tanisha.
I honestly think like posting 2 to 3 times a week is fine to be active, but like I don't consider just posting to be just active because you can always consistently post on your stories every day. That's being considered active. If you're interacting with other people's posts, that's also being active. I think there's so many ways to be present on social that people don't really realize because you don't need to post every day to be active. You can do it in so many different ways.
True.
And then one of the things we found and the most success we found with clients is actually not posting at all. It's following other accounts and interacting with them.
Yeah.
Because will go several weeks sometimes without posting on StratLab. Are we still here? Well, yeah, it's just we're doing other things or we're publishing on our website. So the other one I would try, instead of posting for a week, try following 10 people a day or try talking to several people a day. When you follow and talk to people, it's the new, I call it the new cold call. It's you're on their radar and think of that secondary audience, not your funders or the primary people you're working with, friends of friends. Once friends of friends have heard about you and you're doing something cool and then they say to their friend offline, they saw one of your posts, full circle, it's an amazing thing. So like I said before, the number one thing we will tell clients is stop posting so much. The last thing you want to do is do a half-assed effort into a post that, and this happened this week, for a major issue, if you just grab a stock photo and post it with not that much thought into your caption, guess what your audience does? Oh, that's in bad taste.
Your audience is very, very smart. So you need to know that. And also, like Jeph mentioned, that if you follow 10 people every day, that's good for engagement because at least one of them will follow back. Trust me, they will. We do this every day. At least one of them follows back. So imagine you're getting 1 follower a day. That's 30 followers a month. So set a goal for $30 a month, and this is your strategy. That's it. All it takes is following people and getting to know them and liking their posts, commenting on their posts. Yeah.
And then also, if you're active on, so for example, Open Door, we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I don't post things the same thing on all platforms. Sometimes I do, just depending on what it is. But for example, our LinkedIn account, it is mostly our recruiting stuff and our employment services program. But I would not post like a Indigenous cooking class that we did with our youth program on LinkedIn because it just doesn't, it serves no purpose to be on LinkedIn, whereas Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you can connect with people like anyone who's on those photos can share about it. Like it makes sense there, does not make sense on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Best social media strategy. I think that goes back to people like your goals and your
audience.
capacity and your audience, right? Because if you're everywhere and it's just you and it's on the side of your desk, it's a lot to manage. But also if let's say, you are a youth program that mainly caters to like youth, that's redundant, but that mainly caters to youth and you are up, mostly on Facebook, and the demographics that are heavy on Facebook are not necessarily like the younger demographic. So just think about who's your audience, what's your capacity, and what's your goals and what's your strategies.
Yeah, like if someone asked like, well, what's our strategy? It used to be, you got to be on Pinterest, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Nowadays, it's okay not to be on. We'll talk people out of Twitter now, and bless your soul for running 4 accounts. That's more than we'll do. I don't think we have any clients that pay us to do 4 accounts. So that's like unreal.
Victoria's a social media superhero.
Yeah, it's superhero.
But it all goes back to our audiences, right? Because for example, I spend the most time on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and then Twitter too. It's probably the least used platform, but for some things it makes sense, and it goes back to like a lot of government pages still use Twitter. So to remain engaged with their campaigns, I know I want to put that there because I know that's gonna, even just for reporting, right? Because sometimes they ask you like in your contracts, like to be in or like ask about certain platforms, that kind of thing. So it all goes back to, what are we doing? What's our capacity? And how do we make that happen? It's not going to be the same for everybody. And as Jeph said, keeping it simple and not being on every platform sometimes is best policy. Because I know in the past I've asked about like, are we getting on TikTok? Where's our YouTube account? It's like, well, there's, two of us. It's not going to happen. And do we want to be really successful in a smaller number of platforms or kind of okay on everything?
Well, I'm sure some of you would have had the moment of, oh, can we get on TikTok? Can you start that up? And I like to follow that up with, okay, which one do you want to get rid of?
Yeah.
Because you don't have endless hours in a day. And every time we say, oh, we need to be here, that's actually saying, oh, we don't care about what we're currently on. We care about this new.
Yeah.
That's why pick one or two and own it. Do really well, show growth. And then your reporting is going to be so much easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then this one is kind of a two-part thing in terms of like Twitter's HR and diversity, new policies and stuff. I think that's on their end. I'm not really sure how to answer that, but in terms of like which social media do you think is the best for addressing things? It's not so much the social media platform, but the content that is created there. So earlier we were talking about, TikTok has really great things in terms of communities creating content for people within their communities, but even in places like Instagram, the way you create your content, whether it's adding captions, adding photo descriptions, I've seen amazing things of people doing sign language on their things. And, just think about who's your audience, how do you value that audience, and how do you make sure that the things that you put out there are meeting those accessibility things.
Well, I think we found TikTok actually to be one of the better ones. And there was an example of, was a dad who had a daughter who was deaf and was signing, and it was an ask me anything. So it was, you could ask the daughter anything. And one of the questions was, do you sign in your dreams? And the look on the dad's face when she signed back, yeah, everyone can sign in my dreams. He didn't know. When you watch a dad find out something about a daughter using TikTok, it is so cool. And so for some of you that are looking to find a social network that would be more compatible with people that are sharing about disability, TikTok has a really cool community that is supportive. And yeah, some of the content there is really cool and inspiring to see that. And I know it gets a bad rap, but there is a lot of good there too.
And then locally, again, if your organization does anything with any of those communities, you can be the one that creates that content, right? Like think about it as a content pillar.
And like, even when you're creating these videos and content, like TikTok, for example, can auto-generate your captions for you. And so does CapCut. So if you're wanting to post it on Instagram as well, and you don't want to deal with that TikTok watermark, you can go into CapCut and auto-generate your captions. And that also makes the editing time a lot easier for you as well.
For sure. And then also those photo descriptions. I know Eraser does a really great job with a lot of their posts in terms of how they describe the photo that they've posted. So for anyone who, can't see the photo, but, can get a description of what they have posted and still be able to participate that way. Negative. I love this one because when I started this job is something that they actually asked me in the interview, like, what would you do if someone posted a negative comment? I was like, well, what would I do?
I would argue with them.
Right. And I always struggle with this one. So my kind of checklist, like if this negative comment is something that is worth engaging with, so if it's like a valid concern that somebody has, I will engage with it, whether it's like privately through a direct message or in the comments, or sometimes I will see other people kind of answer for us or, engage that way. If we've gotten a lot of really racist, bigoted, misogynistic, and just awful things in the past as well, I either delete them or hide them and ban those people from the page. And I also check their profile because often they are not real people. They're just bots. And like I said, if it's like a really racist comment, we just had something about an employment program and someone made an awful comment about what about blah, blah, blah. There is nothing constructive that's going to come out of that. And it is now, I don't think it's worth the time engaging with it. If it was a question about like, hey, I don't qualify for this, and can you do something for like people from this community? Absolutely. Often I'll be like, hey, like it's our program doesn't doesn't cater to this, but here's some resources, and I'll add links and I'll share that information, and it turns into something positive. But whenever it's like really racist, really bigoted, really sexist, I don't engage with it. I don't find value in
Do you
that.
delete it though?
Sometimes if it's really offensive,
Mhm.
I will either hide it or delete it. Especially if it's a bot. You can tell a bot
exactly.
like from a real person, because again, I don't want to expose somebody else to have to read that. Let's say if someone's from that community and they see a really racist comment under a post, I will delete it. Like nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to be
Exactly.
exposed to that.
Yeah,
It's kind of being protective of like who's looking at that.
yeah.
Now, in general, I'm gonna put you on the spot
Yeah.
here. How often do you guys get negative comments on all of your platforms? Like, is this like a daily, weekly, monthly kind of thing?
It depends on the content. So whenever we are like, when we had our vaccine program, that was on the daily because we ran a paid ad for our vaccine education and then our vaccine clinics.
Oh, yeah, the Bassi vaccine.
So yeah, and it was all bots. Like I think there was one real person that I could tell that wasn't a bot, but it was mostly like this George Soros organization and the world blah blah blah, and and there's a lot of racism and a lot of all these terrible things that it was specific to that. I've gotten some of those related to some of our programs that have very specific what's it called? Like you have to meet certain specific requirements to join that, or anything related to employment, you'll get the odd like, what about the Canadians? Right? It's like, well, there's a lot there for that.
They're a great hockey team.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's not often, but I can predict when some posts are going to get that. And again, as I get them, some of them we engage with, whether it's privately through DMs, and some of them I just delete them, especially when they're really offensive and just, yeah.
I like what Scott Stratton said about negative comments. You're not the jackass whisperer. You can't change people. You're not going to argue with them. And if you're going on the internet to argue with someone, there's a cold place in heck for you.
Literally.
Yeah. And I love that often when it is a real person, other like people that follow our accounts will stick up for us, and now we'll just engage with them.
Yeah.
Right? That's the original. But
That was one of the comments here.
Yeah,
Anytime
exactly.
there's a negative post,
Mhm.
our audience claps back, which is the ultimate.
Yes.
If you can have an audience that sticks up for you and has your back,
Exactly.
Yeah.
oh,
That's
you've hit it.
amazing.
Yeah.
You've hit it.
Yeah.
And then this one's similar to the other question. Same thing. It's like, I don't think you ever need to give reasons if it's like I said, something really racist, bigoted, sexist, or something that's just awful. Like it's the same. I think it's the same way in which you would engage in a conversation. If someone came to your building and be like, all of these racist things, I would just escort them out. Like I would not.
Yeah.
I would not engage.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always joke and say like, thanks for the engagement and then delete, but like.
Report them, honestly. If they're sending hateful things, report them, because Instagram will take care of that for you. Because if they're being rude to your account, most likely they're probably sending hate to other accounts as well.
Yeah. Report them, and on Facebook I usually ban them when it's, and again, if I can tell it's a bot, because you can like click on their account and see if there's like no followers or just like a weird amount or nobody from the city. All right, how important is to make regular social media posts? I think that goes back to what you mentioned earlier. It just,
Also, another thing that I'd like to add here is like, if you're posting one post a week, that's completely fine, but make sure it's consistent. So the next week you're also posting one post a week. Because I realized like Instagram knows when you're inconsistent, and when you're inconsistent, they're not sure where to put you in the algorithm. So even if it's like 2 posts a week, make sure you're posting at least one the next week. So you're kind of consistent, but don't just like post 1 week or 2 posts, and then like the next month you're like posting nothing.
okay, demographics. We had a conversation about this earlier. We're thinking Facebook is the older demographic, and then we realized it's YouTube.
Yeah, we check the numbers.
Yeah, so it's and I think that's where you can see when you look at the analytics of each of your platforms, you can see the age, gender, and location of your followers. So, for example, on Instagram, our the age of like most of our followers is in the millennial age, whereas on Facebook is a little bit older than that. but I was surprised that it's not younger on Instagram. But you know, that goes back to like as soon as TikTok came up, it just knocked Instagram as like the youth's social media platform.
It's almost like Facebook's for a little bit older generation, Instagram's for us, middle generation, and then TikTok's for the youngins.
Yeah.
But another thing I've noticed, and again, this goes back to who your audience is. A lot of new Canadians still have Facebook as like across many age demographics, and they're really active, right? It's like back home, and not in every single country, but in many countries, Facebook is a thing. And other things that we've noticed that, you know, I'm trying to brainstorm to see how do we get into that are different kinds of platforms like WeChat and WhatsApp and the other one. A lot of new Ukrainians use that one. It's another chat related one, but again, it's like, okay, so if people are there, how do we go there? How do we, because you don't want, it's a lot of work to bring people to your platform. It's easier to go where people are at.
For sure.
And also, if you're confused about your demographics of your accounts that already exist, just go to the insights and you'll know their age group, you'll know their gender, you'll also know if they're from Regina or Moose Jaw, you'll have all that information.
I think that was our last question from the, look at our timing. Is there anything else on the chat?
And Maystruck has some great data on SaaS focused social media.
Thank you for sharing this link. Let me see.
Oh, and I'm going to stop share, but I just wanted to have this related to accessibility. I found a really great article from Yale about accessibility in social media and like why key things about it, options, that kind of thing. I'm going to put that in the chat for anyone that would want to check that out. There we go. We have a very late comer. All right, are there any other questions or anything else that we haven't covered that you're curious about?
Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, yeah, if you wanna, I'm gonna unpin us, so you wanna come in as.
How do I become part of the Twitter conversation? Don't go there. Don't go there.
You know, I think Twitter it's a whole thing on its own, and it's like I said, the platform that we are on, because we were on it before I started this role, but it's a lot more intentional now because you want to have a conversation on Twitter, but if you're not ready to have that conversation and have the time to have that conversation, it's not really that useful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think if you are wanting to be a part of Twitter, definitely follow people that you're wanting to have that conversation with.
Yeah.
And then it's ultimately just replying to the tweets that you see, and that's how you really start the conversation.
Yeah.
But then, like Victoria said, it's like if you have the time for that conversation, because you could send a message now, and maybe like 2 hours later, you could get a bunch of different replies and everything.
Yeah. And also just, you know, making sure that it just fits what your goals are. And I think if I were to like summarize everything that we've put together is like, think about what your goals are, like who is your organization, what are you trying to achieve, like why is social media part of your tools? It doesn't have to be, but if you're using social media, just ask why, who are you trying to reach? And then after you define all of that, then pick your tools, right? Like keeping it simple, making sure that it fits your capacity, and learn lots, because I am learning new things every day. Anytime I talk to people, you know, like CapCut is something that I don't use that, you know, I want to start using more because it just makes things easier. You know, in putting together this presentation, I learn a bit more about other tools and things. So, you know, keep it simple, keep learning, make sure it makes sense to what your goals are. All right. Anything else? I mean,
Aaron is like, thanks for discussing the importance of following and engaging with other pages. This was always an afterthought for me. And this is always an afterthought for our clients as well. So it's great that you guys know now. And yeah.
And engage with other community organization pages. Like I know I usually especially when I want them to share our graphics in the way I want them to look. So I'm like, if I want something to be shared on a story, I will make it to fit a story, and I will DM them, be like, hey, can you please share this for us? And then you have control over, what it looks like, but also you're building those relationships with other community organizations that go even outside of social media, because when they have something going on, I love to share it. When we have something going on, they know that we have it, and then they'll share it for us, and they have audiences that maybe I haven't reached yet.
Also, a good way to engage with your own audience on Instagram, especially, is through story by adding question stickers, poll stickers. Let them be part of your decision making. I feel like that goes a long way, and that way, when you post something on your actual grid, they feel more connected to your business, because you're actually talking to them through your stories. They're responding, you're seeing what they're telling you. I was doing a giveaway for one of my clients, and I was just discussing with my boss, like, what should we do? Should we do this? Should we do that? I was like, hold up, let's just ask our audience. I just put a question sticker with a random picture, and I asked them, guys, we appreciate your support. Like, we're doing a giveaway. What would you guys like to receive? And literally there were so many answers, and most of them were even better than the ones my boss and I thought of. So it's really good to just, talk to your audience, make them feel like you care, because obviously you do your nonprofit organization, you're already doing amazing things.
And the thing with using social media for marketing is that ultimately just have fun with it, right? It's a very informal way to communicate with people. It's not a media release. It's not like a static thing on your website. It's a very fun and interactive way of connecting with people in your community, especially people that would be your volunteers, the people that access your services, and people that would support your organization.
Taking a picture.
Taking a photo for social media.
Anything else, Lynn? I think we're like right on time here.
Yeah.
I was a little bit afraid that we would get chatting too much.
That Victoria would talk too much.
No, this has been fantastic, and I think I was just about to kind of respond to McKenna's posting in the chat about sharing the recording, and also maybe we can get you guys to send me the slides. I'll make sure I send it. A lot of people who weren't able to attend today, I've gotten piles of text messages and emails saying, oh, I couldn't come, I have a sick kid or something like that.
Oh.
So people would like to see the recording and your slides, and I think we'll have a chat after Victoria, Jeph, and the rest of the crew here about possibly seeing about. There was such great interest in this that maybe there's a whole series of on better communications and marketing for nonprofits that that we look at, maybe possibly for start planning for the future. You guys have just been so great, and this was such a nice interactive event today, which is hard to do on Zoom. So thank you so much. My great kudos and applause to you, and sincere thanks on behalf of the Community Engagement and Research Center and the South Saskatchewan Community Foundation, who are the primary organizers of this series.
So thank you, Lynn. Thank you for having us. Thank you everyone for joining. When Lynn told me how many people are registered, I was like, Jeph, we have so many people. We're really excited.
But now we have to actually do something.
And what I want to put together too is, I know we mentioned a lot of tools here. We'll put together a little like a one pager with links to all these things, especially all the like this social media management tools and planning tools, and anything that is free or discounted or anything that has those processes. I'll try to put that together to share with you guys. Like I said, it saved me a lot of time and money to realize that there is so much available for free, and so many people have spent time putting that information together, so I don't have to.
Fantastic. That'll be amazing. So with that, I guess we'll bid everybody adieu, and anyone who wants to be on our email invitations, please let me know. We'll be happy to add you, because I'm finding that more and more people are finding us through Eventbrite and other weird ways that I never
know your audience then.
So have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.